My fiance's Karen mom demanded I pay for her $10,000 designer dress as part of the wedding budget. I called off the wedding instead. I, 28M, have always been the kind of person who seeks peace and mutual respect in relationships. So when I first met my fiancée, 27F, 2 years ago, introduced by mutual friends at a birthday barbecue, I thought I'd finally found the perfect partner. She had a warm laugh, a genuine kindness, and she carried herself with an effortless confidence. Our connection felt natural, and after a little over a year of dating, we got engaged. It seemed like the logical next step for two people who were deeply in love. We both envisioned a modest wedding, something heartfelt yet budget-friendly. We planned a small ceremony in a scenic park, followed by a cozy reception at a family-owned restaurant in my hometown. Our families contributed what they could, but my fiancé and I intended to pay the bulk of the costs ourselves, especially since neither of us believed in going into serious debt for a single day. While it wouldn't be extravagant, we wanted it to be meaningful and personal. The real trouble began when I got to know my fiancé's mother more closely. I'll call her future IL for simplicity, though we weren't married yet. Initially, we'd only crossed paths briefly at holiday dinners and small gatherings, and I'd chalked up her blunt demeanor to a high-energy personality. But once wedding planning ramped up, she shifted from merely opinionated to downright controlling. At first, my fiancé and I tried to humor her suggestions, but we quickly saw that she didn't just want to help, she wanted to take over. Every conversation became a lecture on how we should do things, usually far more lavishly and expensively than we planned. Early on, future IL pushed for an upscale venue that would have consumed our entire budget. She insisted we hire a top-tier caterer, warning that if we chose something simpler, we'd look cheap. My fiancé and I politely pushed back, explaining that we wanted a smaller gathering that reflected our tastes, not an over-the-top affair. Future L would roll her eyes, mutter, and dismiss our concerns entirely. My fiancé reassured me that her mother could be forceful, but usually backed off eventually. Except this time, it only got worse. One Saturday, future Mael showed up unannounced at my apartment while my fiancé was there. She launched into a monologue about wedding attire, but not for the bride. She was talking about her own dress. She rattled off fancy designer names, bragged about how certain high-society acquaintances had worn these gowns to their daughters' weddings, and emphasized that she had a reputation to maintain. It was odd, but I tried to stay polite. Then she dropped the bomb. She wanted us to pay for her $10,000 designer dress. She stated this as a fact, not a request. $10,000 was almost half of our entire wedding budget. When my fiancé gently reminded her that we were already paying for most of the wedding expenses, future Mael brushed it off and insisted it was her right to look her best as the mother of the bride. She also implied I'd pay if I was truly committed. I told her respectfully that we couldn't and wouldn't allocate that kind of money for her dress. She reacted as though I'd insulted her ancestry. She stormed out, calling me ungrateful and cheap. After she left, my fiancé was horrified and apologized on her mother's behalf. I believed her sincerity, but I also sensed that this might be just the beginning. Unfortunately, my instincts were right. Her mother had a long list of manipulative tactics ready to deploy, and we were about to see them all. A few days later, I found myself on a strange conference call with my fiancé, her mother, future MIL, and her father, future FIL. I'd hoped my fiancé's father might rein in his wife's demands, but the moment the call began, AL seized control. She declared I was fully responsible for the cost of her designer dress. She launched into a speech about how she'd raised such a wonderful daughter and deserved to make a statement at this wedding. Her biggest fear, she said, was being judged by her social circle if she wore a budget outfit. Meanwhile, my fiancé's father mostly stayed silent, mumbling only, "Let's keep the family peace," whenever I tried to involve him. My fiancé calmly explained again that we just couldn't afford an extra $10,000 on top of our existing budget. Future Ale twisted it into an accusation that we didn't care about the family's image. She made it sound like we were insulting her by not prioritizing her wardrobe demands. Over the next several weeks, Future Ale tried every trick in the book. She got other relatives to call me, guilt-tripping me about traditions. One of my fiancé's aunts left messages urging me to do whatever it takes to keep the mother of the bride happy. While also attempted to turn my fiancé against me, claiming I was making her look foolish within her extended family. She even threatened not to attend the wedding if she couldn't have her dream gown. The stress weighed heavily on my fiancé. She'd always had a fraught relationship with her mother, deep love, but zero tolerance for the manipulation. Despite her mother's intimidation, she stood by me, though it hurt her deeply to be at odds with her mom. I could see it affecting her health. She wasn't sleeping well and started getting migraines from the constant pressure. Meanwhile, my own parents were outraged. My mother felt it was beyond unreasonable for a mother of the bride to demand a lavish dress at the couple's expense. My father, normally calm, stressed that if we caved, we'd set a terrible precedent for future interference. My best friend chimed in, worried that if my fiancée couldn't hold her mother accountable now, things would only worsen once we were actually married. Those words stung, but I knew he had a point. Future MIL's meddling reached absurd levels. She secretly contacted our caterer to request an even pricier menu, just in case I changed my mind. I only found out when the caterer sent me an updated quote. Then she insisted on using a ridiculously expensive photographer and told them, via email, which got forwarded to me, that the groom will cover all costs no matter what. It was crystal clear she believed she could wear us down with enough persistence. Still, my fiancé and I stayed firm, refusing to allocate wedding funds to future MIL's demands. My fiancé felt torn between familial loyalty and doing what was right for our finances. We had no idea the situation was about to escalate into an all-out war that would make us question whether this wedding was even viable. A few more weeks passed, and future upped the ante. One Sunday, while my fiancé and I were visiting my parents for a casual lunch, IL called my phone, rare for her since she usually accused me of speaking disrespectfully when I disagreed. As soon as I picked up, she launched into a tirade, threatening that if I didn't pay for her designer dress, she'd spread rumors about my financial instability and claim I was refusing to support her daughter. She hinted she'd contact my extended family, hoping they'd pressure me to comply. It was essentially blackmail. I told her calmly she could do whatever she wanted, but the only thing it would prove was her own manipulation. She hung up on me. I went back inside, shaken but determined. My fiancée felt crushed. Her mother's behavior humiliated and angered her. My parents were ready to confront Elle themselves, but I asked them to hold off, hoping we could still resolve this peacefully. In the days that followed, Elle followed through on her threats. I received calls from distant relatives, demanding to know why I was being so cheap. One aunt left a voicemail implying that my refusal to take care of the mother of the bride meant I didn't truly love my fiancé. Mel had obviously spun wild tales about me, refusing to support the wedding altogether. My fiancé, seeing all this havoc, began to doubt whether we could have a peaceful future. Despite loving each other, we had to confront the reality of a mother who was willing to sabotage her own daughter's wedding. Meanwhile, I reached out to a cousin who works as a paralegal. She reassured me there was no legal basis for MIL's demands. Nobody can be forced to buy someone else's dress. If MIL made defamatory claims, she'd face hurdles proving damages in court. While that was a relief, it didn't solve the emotional turmoil. Hoping for a final resolution, I asked my fiancé to set up a 3-person meeting, just me, her, and Elle, in a neutral place. We picked a small cafe near MIL's home. From the minute we arrived, she was livid. She accused me of ruining her relationship with her daughter and insulted my finances yet again. I tried to speak up, but she cut me off repeatedly. When I finally raised my voice just enough to be heard, I stated firmly, I'm not paying for your $10,000 dress. If you want something extravagant, pay for it yourself. If that's not possible, choose a cheaper option or don't come at all. Neil glared at me, then turned on my fiancé, threatening to disown her for allowing me to disrespect the family. Through tears, my fiancé stood by me, which only enraged Nell further. She stormed out, slamming a chair on her way. As we sat there in stunned silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that we just crossed a line from which there was no return. If Maëlle was this hostile now, what would she do after we married? The final blow came a few days later. My fiancé and I were at my place, finalizing the guest list, when we discovered future Maëlle's newest stunt. She had phoned our reception venue to announce the wedding might be canceled due to financial difficulties and even tried to add 50 more guests to our list, assuming we'd be stuck with the bill. The manager reached out to confirm these changes, which I immediately reversed. Furious, I told my fiancé I couldn't take much more of this. My fiancé confronted her mother by phone, but future Maëlle just repeated she wouldn't attend a wedding unless she could be glamorous. She also vowed to recruit other relatives to boycott if she didn't get her way. In that moment, I realized our entire engagement had turned into a battle against her mother's entitlement. The joy of planning our future was destroyed by constant threats and drama. That same week, I had a serious talk with my fiancée. We tearfully admitted that we couldn't see a clear path forward. We both loved each other, but were exhausted by her mother's manipulations. Ultimately, we made the heartbreaking decision to call off the wedding rather than enter marriage under such toxic circumstances. Canceling everything felt like ripping off a gigantic Band-Aid, painful but strangely relieving. We notified our venue, vendors, and close relatives. Reactions ranged from shock to sympathy. As expected, Future and I exploded, accusing me of humiliating her and abandoning her daughter. But the only thing I was truly abandoning was a situation that had become toxic for everyone. In a final act of self-protection, I sent an email to her extended family clarifying why the wedding was canceled. I included screenshots of MIL's threatening texts and emails, evidence of her demands for a $10,000 dress, plus attempts to sabotage our planning. It wasn't about pettiness. I was simply tired of her slander. Once relatives saw the truth, several who had sided with her backed off or even apologized to me. Her social facade cracked. According to my now ex-fiancée, Niall was furious about being exposed, yet she brought it on herself. My ex-fiancée and I have since tried to remain on civil terms. She acknowledged needing time and space, possibly therapy, to break free from her mother's grip. Our trust and shared future was too damaged to salvage. We still care for each other, but we accepted that we can't build a healthy marriage if her mother's manipulations always loom overhead. Despite the heartache, I feel relief that I discovered the extent of Future Miles' control before tying the knot. While there's some guilt, wondering if I could have saved the relationship, I know deep down that a marriage cannot flourish under constant intimidation. I'm now focused on healing and rediscovering the peace I value so much. My family and close friends support my decision, relieved that I set boundaries rather than caving in to unreasonable demands. As painful as it was, I believe it was the right call. One day, I hope my ex-fiancée can stand up to her mother for good, whether she ever considers reconciling with me or finds happiness elsewhere. As for Future MIL, she must face the fact that her insistence on a $10,000 designer dress ultimately cost her daughter a marriage that could have been loving and stable. It's a grim irony that her fixation on social image led to the very outcome she claimed to fear. If there's one lesson here, it's the importance of recognizing red flags early, especially when someone tries to impose their will on your finances or guilt trip you into an unsustainable situation. Sometimes the strongest move is to walk away, even if it breaks your heart.